Hello again, and welcome back to our esports psychology web series. And this time in episode 4, we'll be looking into the myth of talent and how everyone with the right mindset can actually teach themselves to be talented. So let's start with a few questions. Are the best musicians only the best because they were born with the skill to craft beautiful symphonies? Are chess grandmasters so good at the game because they were born with high IQs and brilliant memory? Are mathematicians only born as maths types and not made? Most will often answer with, well, yeah, they have a gift for their profession. Now, this is understandable, but this is generally because the Western media so often loves to label people as either natural talents, prodigies, or just gifted. But in reality, it's actually nowhere near that simple. It's often too easy to assume that the best are only the best because of their inborn talent, which seems to be some mystical advantage that only few receive as luck of the genetic lottery. Anyone can look towards the greats of their sport and say, yeah, they're gifted, this is why they're so good. And generally, you wouldn't be wrong because those athletes are gifted, but not necessarily in the way you might think. So, the gift we all hold. This gift then is not inborn talent. This gift that the best performers have, whether they be footballers, esports athletes, or world-leading innovators, is the core drive to push their boundaries and always be improving. Now, David Beckham wasn't born with a strong kicking leg and a keen eye. He honed these aspects over thousands of hours of practice from childhood sessions in the park all the way through to his free kick seen by millions against Greece in 2002. Nor was Tom Brady born with a natural affinity for playbooks and a strong arm. These skills were developed over a long career alongside hard graft, practice and grit. Even the best esports athletes weren't born with fast reactions or the ability to predict an opponent's next move, but most of them, and you in fact, have been unknowingly training for years since childhood when you first picked up a joypad or hit your keyboard. And I'm not saying these individuals weren't lucky, like they were very lucky. They grew up in environments which nurtured their talent and had understanding families who scaffolded them in preparation for greatness, but they weren't necessarily born great. Now, what these athletes all have in common is their relentless pursuit of perfection and the ability to practice over and over until they've pushed themselves to the next level. Now, this is not a unique trait, it is one we're actually all capable of if we are willing to dig deep. This sort of practice, known as deliberate practice, is not easy nor is it fun. It takes concentration, energy and willpower to push for this level of performance. This means playing any game not just for fun, but to improve. Now what this means is looking at what you did wrong every match and working out ways you can stop this happening in the next round, not just hoping it doesn't happen again. Unfortunately, I see it over and over again with certain esports teams and athletes that whilst they're practicing, they're not necessarily deliberately practicing. Now what this means is that instead of working on their issues, they'll relentlessly play games over and over but with no specific improvement goal in mind. Let's say then that you want to go pro in the tactical shooter Rainbow Six Siege. Where do you start in crafting that apparently natural talent that only the best seem to possess? Practice. Not just normal practice, but tough practice. Practice which makes you feel uncomfortable and pushes you out of your normal range in the pursuit of greatness. This deliberate practice is what the best in all sports do, whether they know it or not. Now, I'm going to be honest, normal practice is good for being good, but it's not good enough if you want to be great. For those at the top, sitting in a casual lobby on Siege to warm up or playing ranked games with your friends occasionally will not be enough to get you out of gold, let alone all the way to diamond. Now this form of passive practice, where you do the usual and accept losses and wins as par for the course, is good enough up to a certain level, allowing you to ingrain the core rules and patterns of the game you play. But if you really want to be the best and push your boundaries, you must go that bit further. Now I must stress, this is true for all games, not just Siege, so anything like Overwatch, League of Legends, PUBG, it's all applicable across the board, but I just prefer to use the example of Siege. So in going that bit further, you may choose to start deliberate practice, and to do this you must identify areas of weakness. In Siege, the best teams use the destructible environments, the map and communication to their advantage when facing opponents. For them, it's not enough to simply be good and win most games, they must win all games if they really want to be contenders at championships. Now this means that to improve, you need to highlight your weakest areas, strip them back and rebuild them stronger. So record everything. The best teams record everything. They look for every single chink in their armour and build themselves stronger around it. Now this is the easiest way to identify issues in your gameplay. Let's say you might not be the best at getting a bomb plant in the closing seconds of a game, or you may lose your nerve holding angles whilst defending, or react slower than your position whilst peeking a corner. It will all be there on film. Now, in all honesty, I know it can be hard to see your mistakes and own up to them or accept them. That is hard for everyone, me, anyone else, no matter who you are. It's really tough sometimes to see where you've gone wrong and just take it on the chin and understand that you've gone wrong. But I find the best way to come to terms with criticism and self-criticism is to start to see mistakes as building blocks. Criticism never means you're worse than someone else or worth less than another person. It means you can be so much stronger if you take it on board and work with it. Now, these mistakes and weaknesses don't matter. It's what you do about them that counts. Once you've found the chink in your armour, start plating up and practice the issue over and over again. Work with your team to create plant strategies with you at the spearhead in matches again and again until eventually it becomes more natural and you identify threats and patterns faster and less mistakes are made. Or you could even choose a teammate in a custom match to train your reactions through 1v1s until you peek and shoot almost instinctively as soon as you see a pixel out of place. So whatever your weakness is, once it's identified it can be worked on and gradually ironed out. Sometimes this will be fast and other times it will be a long hard slog to improve. It is different for everyone, but everyone can improve. Now this is key. Everyone can improve. Regardless of what you tell yourself or what others have said to you, if you want to and are willing to, you can improve. Now what separates this deliberate practice from normal practice is that it's specific to you and honed in on an issue you have. Instead of the issue coming up occasionally during matches, you are deliberately upping the challenge and actively putting yourself in these tough situations over and over again so you can identify, plan and respond faster and better. This is just like learning to do archery in real life. Let's say you start practicing on a target half the size of a normal one. You're going to make far more mistakes than others, but over time you'll learn to be accurate and hit most of your shots. And then one day the small target is replaced with a normal one, and it couldn't be easier for you since you've always practiced on a smaller one. This new target has tons more space. It's basically free real estate. So let's return to David Beckham again. Back when he was young, instead of just practicing football against his mates in the park or whenever he had a team game, he knew that he struggled with ball control and began to regularly attempt keepy uppies. Now if you don't know what keepy uppies are, this is where the ball must be kept in the air using your feet and head only. To begin with, he was no better than average, probably worse to be honest, but over time, with extensive practice of the scenario and support from his father, this chink in his armour began to fade and soon he could effortlessly keep the ball in the air. Now, this is the part most rarely see, since it's far more engaging and mystical for a child to be a natural talent with a ball or a football prodigy. And this is what is known as the iceberg analogy, which basically means that just like an iceberg, 2/3 of the mass is below the surface and you can only see the sharp point which punctures the ocean's surface. And just like with people, you can only see the top third, which is on show to the world, not the 2/3 beneath which encompass the relentless practice, dedication and pain which has gone into supporting what's on show. Now this is the lesson of deliberate practice, and while we all have the gift for it, but few will ever use it. It's tough, tiring and challenging. It's bloody hard to sit down in the same situation over and over until you get it right, when you could be playing a game online with friends as usual, rather than trying to work out the kinks in your own gameplay. Yet this is also why the best are at the top of their game. It's the borderline obsessive practice and pursuit of perfection that has crafted this willing mentality and seemingly superhuman ability. Because the scenarios have been practiced time and time again, they begin to transfer from conscious calculations and thoughts to the much faster subconscious processing areas, giving the impression that the performer is naturally gifted and sees things others don't, when in reality they've seen the scenario hundreds of times, which means it could be identified before it even plays out in full, much like how baseball players know the pitch before the ball has even left their hand. Right then, it's time to scaffold yourself. We all know on some level that if you really want to be the best, you must be willing to put in the work. You need to support yourself and scaffold your development by stepping just outside your comfort zone and building your skills until the uncomfortable becomes comfortable, just like the archery example we used earlier. Then you need to do it again and again until you've strengthened those weak points and continue to achieve your goals. Now this constant shifting and moving forward is essential in preventing stagnation, and so setting achievable goals can be a brilliant tool in the pursuit of sporting perfection. Now this process is exactly what's happening on the diagram here. The outer ring represents the comfortable practice, where the boundaries are not pushed and active improvements are not made. The amber ring represents the potential for improvement, deliberate practice. And the central ring represents the overall end goal, which is unachievable without moving through the red and amber rings first. In moving through these stages, the uncomfortable zone will become comfortable, and the unachievable goal will become the new uncomfortable deliberate practice zone. And the final goal is once again moved even closer to the centre. So this is how the best become the best. If you can get into the habit of deliberate practice and pushing yourself hard every training session in the pursuit of greatness, then there is no real reason why you can't be one of the best too. After all, if you never fail during training, then you're not training hard enough. And so there it is, another episode done and dusted. I hope you found this one useful, and if you ever want to know more, just drop by the website at www.levelupperformanceuk.wordpress.com or send me a message at the address on screen. Feel free to drop us a follow too, and once again, all the best, and I hope you've enjoyed your Manna for the Mind.